Millionaire CEO black twins sell toy car to save their mother. Their lives were never the same again. $5,000 for a toy car? Are you kidding? Jamal's incredulous whisper to his twin brother hung in the air as the man in the impeccable suit walked away, leaving more money in his small hands than they had ever seen. Silent tears streamed down Malik's face, still holding the empty space where the last gift his father had left before he left had once been. On that cold autumn afternoon, the 8-year-old twins didn't know that they had just crossed the path of Gabriel Esvera, a man who carried billions and fortune in his pocket and an emptiness in his heart that no amount of money could fill. A man who, driven by something inexplicable, would discreetly order his driver, "Follow those children. I want to see where they live." A gust of icy wind swept through Grove Park, scattering dry leaves along the paths where the Johnson twins had strategically positioned themselves among hurried executives. Their eyes, identical even down to their long eyelashes, scrutinized each passerby with desperate hope. "Sir, do you want to buy our car?" "It's very special," Jamal called out to a businessman who drove straight past without even slowing down. "We need to try harder," whispered Malik, his voice breaking. "Mom needs your medicine today." Across the park, Gabriel Sila stepped out of his black limousine, adjusting the platinum watch on his wrist. At 40, he had transformed Silvera Technologies into a global empire, his name synonymous with relentless innovation. His face, although still young, bore the lines of an ancient pain that his empire of glass and steel had not managed to erase. "I'll be at the 3 Olal meeting. Meet me on the east side in 20 minutes, instructed his driver, walking through the park with the same calculated efficiency he applied to his business. His mind was already reviewing financial projections, oblivious to the world around him, until a childish voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, would you please buy our car?" Gabriel stopped, surprised not so much by the request, but by the raw sincerity that accompanied it. Turning around, he saw 2 identical black boys looking at him, their thin faces contracted with anxiety. One of them was holding a red toy car as if it were a precious jewel. "We're selling because we need to help our mother," Malik explained, his eyes shining with determination. "She's very ill." Gabriel stared at the toy. Despite the wear around the edges, it was obviously cherished, clean, cared for, loved. Something about that moment, the sight of the twins, the way they held the toy, perhaps the echo of a long-buried memory, resonated inside him. "How much?" he asked, his normally firm voice now strangely soft. The twins exchanged quick glances. "As much as you can afford," replied Jamal. "We just need enough for her medicine." Without fully understanding his own impulse, Gabriel pulled out several large bills from his wallet. "Will this help?" he asked, holding out the money. The boys' eyes widened at the amount, much more than they had dreamed of. Malik carefully placed it in Gabriel's hand, his small fingers lingering for a moment before reluctantly pulling away. "Thank you, sir," Jamal said, his voice shaking with relief. "This will help our mother a lot." Gabriel put the car away in his pocket, watching the twins clutch the money tightly and hurry away. He should have continued on his way, returned to his agenda for the day, and forgotten about this brief encounter. Instead, something in those identical little faces leaning together in urgent conversation tugged at him. "Follow them," he said softly to his driver, who was following at a distance. "I want to see where they live." As his car slowly followed the hurrying twins, Gabriel studied the toy in his hand. It had been years since something had interrupted his carefully ordered existence. Years since he had felt that urge, that need to understand something beyond profit margins and strategic acquisitions. If you've ever felt that a seemingly chance encounter could completely change the course of your life, you'll understand why Gabriel couldn't explain his own actions at that moment. Why a man who'd built such high walls around his heart now felt them shaking at the mere sight of two boys and a toy car. The twins arrived at a dilapidated building in the Riverside district, disappearing through the entrance. Gabriel remained motionless in his car, the toy still in his hand. "Wait here," he ordered the driver, getting out before he could reconsider. What would Gabriel find in that apartment? Why had those twins provoked such a deep reaction in a man who had spent years running away from emotional connections? And how was this chance encounter in the park about to trigger a series of events that would forever change not only the lives of the twins and their sick mother, but also the frozen heart of one of the most powerful men in the city? The building's corridor smelled of mold and despair. Gabriel climbed 4 flights of stairs, following the sound of excited children's voices. When he reached a door with peeling paint, he hesitated before knocking firmly. The door opened a crack, revealing the suspicious face of one of the twins. "It's the man from the park," he called over his shoulder, eyes wide with confusion. The door opened wider. The two boys stood there, uncertainty stamped on their identical faces. Behind them, Gabriel glimpsed Asmal's Spartan apartment and the silhouette of a woman lying on a thin mattress. "May I come in?" Gabriel asked. His usually authoritative tone now softened. After a moment's hesitation, the boys stepped aside. The contrast with their world could not have been more striking. The apartment, although clean, revealed an honest poverty. No excess, just basic necessities. What struck Gabriel most was what was missing. Space, comfort, security. "Our mother is asleep," whispered Jamal. Diana Johnson lay on a thin mattress. Her breathing labored, her skin gray against the worn sheets, even in her illness. Her resemblance to her children was unmistakable. The same delicate features, although her once vibrant face was now hollowed out by suffering. "How long has she been like this?" Gabriel asked softly. "Weeks," Malik replied, his small shoulders slumping. "She gets worse every day." Gabriel knelt beside the mattress, gently touching Diana's arm. Her skin burned with fever. "She needs a hospital," he said decisively. "We don't have any money," explained Jamal, his voice thin. "That's why we were selling our car." Gabriel looked at the toy still in his pocket, then at the desperate faces of the twins. Something inside him, something he'd thought long buried, stirred to life. "I'll take care of it," he said firmly. The twins exchanged glances. "How are we going to pay you?" Malik asked, clutching the money they'd earned. Gabriel's expression softened unexpectedly. "You already sold me your car, remember? Now it's my turn to help." Without waiting for an answer, Gabriel gently lifted Diana into his arms. She mumbled something incoherent, too weak to resist. "Where are we going?" Malik asked, holding his mother's limp hand. "To people who can help her," Gabriel replied, already dialing on his phone as the car pulled away. The emergency doors slid open as Gabriel entered, carrying Diana. The twins following anxiously. His imposing presence dispensed with the usual procedures, and within minutes, doctors were examining Diana while nurses guided the worried boys to nearby chairs. "Severe dehydration, probable kidney failure," murmured Dr. Eleanor Patel, checking Diana's vital signs. "How long has she been like this?" "They say weeks," Gabriel replied, watching the medical team work with efficient urgency. "Will she recover?" The doctor's expression remained professionally neutral. "She needs immediate treatment." "Are you family?" Gabriel hesitated only briefly. "Yes," he answered firmly, surprised by the conviction in his voice. Tests confirmed the initial diagnosis: severe kidney disease requiring immediate dialysis. Gabriel authorized all the necessary treatments without hesitation, signing forms and providing his insurance information as if he had been taking care of Diana all his life. Hours later, Gabriel found himself sitting between the exhausted twins in a quiet hospital corridor. The boys leaned against him, fighting sleep but losing the battle. Neither had left their mother's side until the doctors insisted they leave during a procedure. "Is Mommy going to die?" whispered Jamal, his small voice breaking. Gabriel looked at the boy. seeing fear in those brown eyes that seemed too wise for his age. "No," he said with certainty. "She's getting the best care possible right now." "But what happens next?" asked Malik, equally worried. "We can't stay in hospital forever." The question hung in the air. Gabriel had been so focused on getting treatment for Diana that he hadn't considered what would come next. The thought of sending these children back to that sterile apartment while their mother recovered was unthinkable. "You'll stay with me," Gabriel heard himself say, the words forming before he'd fully considered it. "Just until your mother gets better." The twins exchanged doubtful glances. "Your house must be very big," Malik commented after a moment, trying to imagine. "It is," Gabriel confirmed, feeling strangely self-conscious about his wealth for the first time in years. "There's plenty of room for both of you." When Diana was finally stabilized and asleep, a nurse approached with documents and questions about childcare arrangements. Gabriel took over gently, explaining that the boys would be staying with him. His confident tone left no room for argument or suspicion. As they prepared to leave, Gabriel watched the twins say goodbye to their unconscious mother, each placing a gentle kiss on her forehead, with a tenderness that tightened his chest. These children, who had every reason to be broken by circumstances, showed a resilience and love that awakened something long dormant within him. In the limousine, Jamal stared at the rich man. "Why are you helping us?" Definitely asked, his voice small but direct. The question hung heavily between them. Why indeed? What had prompted Gabriel S.A., known for his ruthless efficiency in business and his reclusive existence, to become so deeply involved in the lives of strangers in a matter of hours? Was it just charity? Or was something deeper, more personal, driving his actions? The glow of the imposing mansion appeared through the windows of the limousine as they approached the ornate gates. The twins' eyes widened as they caught a glimpse of what looked like a modern castle emerging from meticulously tended gardens. What little Jamal and Malik Johnson didn't know was that as they gazed at the imposing exterior of Gabriel's mansion, the real mystery was locked inside. Not just inside the house, but inside the heart of the man who was taking them to a world completely different from anything they'd ever known. And the key to this mystery, it could be in the simple red toy car that now rested in Gabriel Esva's pocket, connecting past and present in ways that neither of them yet understood. The morning light flooded into the luxurious bedroom where the twins slept in beds bigger than their old apartment. A week had passed since their arrival at the mansion, and the aroma of waffles freshly prepared by Mrs. Collins already filled the air. Gabriel was canceling his third meeting in a row when Malik appeared at his office door. "Mr. Sa," his hesitant voice interrupted the silence. "Can we visit Mom today?" "Of course," Gabriel replied. "We'll go after coffee." The boy stood in the doorway playing with the sleeve of his new shirt. "Can I ask you something? Why is there always a locked door in the hallway?" Mrs. Collins said. "We should never go in there." The question hit Gabriel like a physical blow, his posture instantly stiffening. "That room is private," he replied dryly as he watched Malik retreat silently. Gabriel reached into his drawer where a small golden key had remained untouched for 5 years. At the hospital, Diana was sitting up when they arrived, visibly stronger, her cheeks regaining color. "Mommy?" The twins ran to hug her while Gabriel stood in the doorway, watching the family reunion with a mixture of detachment and fascination. "The doctors say." "I'm responding well," Diana commented, her eyes meeting Gabriel's with a gratitude that made him look away. Later, when the twins were entertaining a nurse with stories about the mansion, Diana studied Gabriel carefully. "You don't have any children," she observed, softly. "No," he replied after a moment. "Not anymore." Her eyes widened with understanding, but before she could reply, Jamal caught her eye, breaking that fragile moment. On the drive back, Dr. Patel had quietly asked, Why would a billionaire CEO take in two Riverside kids? Gabriel didn't answer, but the question persisted, forcing him to examine buried truths. That afternoon, Abang interrupted his thoughts. In the hallway, he found Jamal paralyzed in front of the shards of an expensive crystal sculpture. "I'm sorry," stammered the boy, trembling. "It was an accident." At another time, Gabriel would have reacted with a cold rebuke. But he surprised himself by asking, "Are you hurt?" When Jamal shook his head negatively, Gabriel simply said, "It's just an object. Things can be replaced." The surprise and confusion on the boy's face was palpable. Children like him weren't used to second chances. "You're not angry?" he asked in a small voice. "No," replied Gabriel, surprised to discover that it was true. That night, wandering the halls of the mansion, he heard sobs coming from the twins' bedroom. Malik was awake, silent tears streaming down his face as Jamal slept. "I miss Mommy," whispered the boy. "What if she doesn't get better?" Gabriel sat hesitantly on the edge of the bed. "Your mother is strong. She'll come back to you." "Our father died when we were 5, Malik confessed. "Mom said that sometimes people just don't come back." The simple statement hit Gabriel with unexpected force. He touched the boy's shoulder lightly, promising that his mother would come back, trying to believe it too. Ash left. He felt something crumbling inside him, a crack in the fortress he'd built around his heart. Without conscious planning, his steps led him to the locked door at the end of the corridor. The key weighed in his pocket like an anchor. 5 years. 5 years since he had allowed anyone into that sanctuary of pain. The click of the lock seemed to echo in the silent corridor. He pushed the door open slowly, revealing the room exactly as he had left it. Blue walls with decals of planets, a bookcase with adventure books, a bed with an astronaut blanket never touched by Mrs. Collins. On the bedside table, a photograph. Gabriel with a black boy with a radiant smile and a dark-skinned woman with kind eyes, happy on a beach. Their last trip together. "Mr. Gabriel." He turned to find Jamal standing in the doorway, wide-eyed. "You shouldn't be here," he said in a hoarse voice. "Was this your son's room?" the boy asked softly. Gabriel nodded, unable to speak. "Was he our age?" "He would be now. Samuel was 8 when he couldn't finish." Jamal approached cautiously, looking at the photograph. "You look happy." "We were," Gabriel replied, the pent-up emotions finally spilling over. For the first time in 5 years, the crushing weight of guilt he carried seemed lighter, and that terrified him. Was he worthy of this relief? What the twins didn't know was that Gabriel was driving the car on that fatal night, that the deaths of Samuel and Amara were not just a tragedy, but one he believed he had caused. A truth that had haunted him through the empty years of his mansion. Now, as he watched Jamal carefully examine his son's treasures, Gabriel faced an even more difficult question. When Diana returned home, would these fragile bonds survive? Or would it be just another loss to bear? And the most terrifying truth of all, could Gabriel risk loving again? Knowing that love always requires you to surrender what you hold most precious, with no guarantees of protecting it? Spring arrived, transforming the gardens of the Silvera mansion into a scene of rebirth. 3 months had passed since that night, when Gabriel had opened not only the door to Samuel's room, but also the floodgates of his locked heart. Diana Johnson, now completely recovered, watched through the window of her new bedroom as her children ran around the garden with a golden retriever puppy. A surprise gift from Gabriel in celebration of the end of his kidney treatments. The transformation was almost impossible to believe, not just in her health, but in everything around her. "I still can't believe we're here," Diana murmured when she felt Gabriel approaching. "It's like a dream I'm going to wake up from at any moment." Gabriel remained silent, his gaze fixed on the twins playing outside. There was something in his eyes, a decision formed after sleepless nights. "There's something I need to tell you," he finally said, About Samuel and Amara. About the accident. Diana turned to face him, recognizing the gravity in his voice. I know it's hard to talk about them. I was driving that night, Gabriel revealed, the words escaping like a long, suppressed confession. It was raining. We were arguing about something so insignificant that I don't even remember it anymore. I was distracted. The truck came out of nowhere. Diana gently touched his arm. It was an accident, Gabriel. For 5 years I've carried this guilt, she continued, her voice breaking. I built this empire while destroying myself inside. I closed that room and my heart at the same time. Diana remained silent, allowing him to finally release what he had held in for so long. When I saw Jamal and Malik in the park, something awoke. They were 2 children, desperate to save their mother, just as I would have done anything to save Samuel. His eyes met hers. What I'm trying to say is that it wasn't just charity. Was it redemption? Maybe a second chance. Outside, the twin slaughter filled the air. Jamal had tripped, and instead of crying, he was rolling in the grass, laughing as the dog licked his face. Don't you think Amara and Samuel would like to see you live again? Diana asked softly. Wouldn't you be honoring their memory better by finding joy instead of punishment? Before Gabriel could answer, the bedroom door opened. The twins rushed in, their faces lit up by identical smiles. Mr. Gabriel, we found something amazing in the garden, Malik exclaimed, holding something in his small hands. A time capsule, added Jamal, pointing to the rusty metal box. Gabriel recognized the object immediately. The capsule he and Samuel had buried on their last anniversary. With trembling hands, he opened it. Inside were children's drawings, a toy car similar to the one the twins had sold, and an envelope with a child's irregular handwriting to be opened when I am an astronaut. Was it from Samuel? Malik asked, his voice dropping respectfully. Gabriel nodded, unable to speak. Then, to his surprise, he felt little arms wrap around him. First Malik, then Jamal, in a spontaneous and affectionate hug. Samuel seemed really nice, said Jamal. I think we would have been friends. It was this simple comment, this innocent acceptance, that finally broke down the last barrier. The tears that Gabriel had suppressed for 5 years finally flowed, no longer as symbols of guilt, but of liberation. Diana joined in the embrace, forming a circle of connection that transcended chance, tragedy, and time. A year later, Gabriel S.A.'s office at S.A. Technologies had changed dramatically. Photos of the twins at their last school competitions shared space with a framed image of Samuel. The door that had always remained closed was now open as a symbol of his transformation. His assistant hurried in. Mr. S.A., the Second Chances Foundation meeting starts in 10 minutes. Gabriel smiled. The foundation set up to help single-parent families in medical crisis had already helped hundreds of people in situations similar to Diana's. I'll be right there, he replied, holding up the official adoption papers he had just signed. The twins, who had been affectionately calling him Dad for months, would now legally take his surname, a decision that Diana fully supported. In the parking lot, Diana was waiting for him next to a family minivan, a stark contrast to the limousines that had previously dominated his life. Nervous? She asked, adjusting her tie with the intimacy of someone who shared not just a house, but a life. About announcing our foundation or our wedding? Gabriel joked, kissing her softly. Both, she smiled, the engagement ring sparkling on her hand. Who would have thought that a toy car sold in the park would change so many lives? In the back seat, the twins discussed their new school project animatedly. They were no longer those desperate children selling their last precious possession. They were confident, loved, and secure boys. And most importantly, they were living proof that sometimes the greatest blessings come from the most unlikely moments. Do you know what I've learned from all this? Gabriel commented, looking at the family he had never imagined having again. That our greatest tragedy can turn into our greatest redemption. That no matter how much life breaks us, we can always rebuild something even stronger from the shards. At that moment, while driving with his new family to a future he had never planned, Gabriel S.A. finally understood the deepest truth of his journey. That sometimes we need to lose everything to discover what really matters, and that even on the darkest nights, there is always the possibility of a new dawn. If this story has touched your heart, let us know in the comments how you've overcome difficult moments in your life. Sometimes sharing our pain is the first step towards healing not only ourselves but also others. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that show that even in the most unlikely circumstances, there is always hope for a fresh start.